It happened a long, long time ago, but their memory still haunts me. My kids are a lot younger then, and I was down at the workbench fixing one of the myriad of things that fall apart in your house faster than you can ever put them back together. And my son, who was 5 or 6 at the time, was playing around near me. He wanted to play with me. But I was busy. I mean, I had stuff I had to get done, and I didn't have a lot of time, and so I was focused, and he kept bothering me. And I finally just lost my temper, and I said, "Can't you see I have something more important to do?" Well, his shoulders slumped and his head drooped, and he wandered away, and I knew I had just totally blown it. I was not proud of that moment. I wish I hadn't done it. I wish I'd never have another moment like it, but I know too well. I have all these little pieces of my life that I can either do something that helps put together the kind of relationships that I really want to have and to live with, or I can screw things up. But most of the time, I don't even realize that I'm doing something. I don't realize I'm putting anything together. I'm oblivious to the fact that the choices I make, minute by minute, hour by hour, are determining what my relationships in my life is going to be like for myself and for the other people that I know and that I care about. So I just do whatever, and often something pretty stupid, like tell my kid that a project is more important than he or she is, or take a friend for granted, or assume that because I'm in a bad mood, everyone else ought to be as well, and if they're not, it's my job to make them that way. Not a pretty picture. I guess I do that, but here's the deal. I think the reason that I don't know what to do with all these individual pieces, these individual moments of my life, is that I lose sight of the bigger picture that they all fit into. My son's totally deflated face and shoulders woke me up that time, and I realized my number one job was being his dad. It wasn't being the home repairman. So I put down the tools and I told him I was sorry and played with him for a little while, and then I found a way for him to help me with my job. Took twice as long that way, but I sure did feel a lot better about who I was and what I was about. When I don't know where I want to go with the people in my life that I love and I care about, it's so easy to hurt them. It's easy to get off course and to never end up where I want. Imagine you're getting in the car with a good friend. You're getting ready for that great road trip. The bags are packed, they're thrown in the back, the engine's running. So what road are you going to take? Well, there's no way to answer that, is there? I mean, you can't pick out the road, you can't pick out the way if you don't know where you're going. There's no way to get there if you don't know where there is. Not knowing, you might end up just happening to go somewhere pretty interesting, but more than likely it's going to be pretty frustrating. Now, maybe that's a fun thing to do with some of your spare time while you're driving, but do you really want to take a risk like that with your best friend or with your spouse or your partner or the people that you work with? Without some idea of what it looks like to be there, it's very unlikely you'll ever get there. Chances are that most of the relationship advice that you've ever heard sounded pretty familiar. It's no news. You probably could have said it yourself. But if that's true, if we know this stuff already, how come our relationships aren't any better? I think it's because we don't know when to apply what we already know. In fact, a lot of the times we don't even know that we should apply it. And so instead of having our hopes and dreams for our relationships drive our decisions and our actions, we let some less healthy things do it. Unhealthy emotions and habits and things that we've picked up over the years, they call the shots and they end up making our relationships look the way they are. We like it when everything works out okay, but when it doesn't, we don't know what to do about it except maybe try another relationship and hope everything works out better this next time. We are unaware of the fact that we are living the relationship that we are making, assembled piece by piece by our own inattention. We aren't just rivers rushing downstream out of control. We're people with their lives made up of moments, one after another, that need to be handled with love and care so that overall they make up this beautiful picture of our life with the people around us. Stephen Covey, in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Families, says that everything is created twice. First, as an idea, the mental creation, and second, in reality, that idea lived out in real life. We too often miss that first step and we just act, and our relationships show it. But it doesn't have to be that way. And that doesn't mean that we have to be perfect and never mess up. It just means that we have to realize that what we are doing is putting together the picture and that it isn't done yet. In fact, the real fun of a relationship isn't having it all finished and sitting back and looking at it. It's in the making of it. Jesus worked this way. He had a clear vision of what he wanted in his relationship with us. He said, "I have come that you may have life and that you may have it abundantly." And he hammered away at that consistently with so many people in so many different circumstances that it was clear that it wasn't just talk for him. He had a real picture in his heart of what that abundant life would look like in the life of every person he ever met. He also gives us a picture for our relationships. He says that God's wish for us is that we would love the Lord our God with all our heart, and with all our soul, and with all our mind, and that we would also love our neighbors as we love ourselves. It's up to us then to imagine what that looks like in real and vivid ways, real and vivid enough to guide us through some very complex decisions that we have in our relationships with one another. But not so rigid, not so concrete and specific that it has to happen in a certain way, because we just don't have that kind of control of our lives. And I think that's probably okay, because the world that we would come up with in our imaginations is not nearly as great as the one that God has for us. We never do everything right. I screw up, so do you. That's not going to change. Life is never done. The picture of what life with your family, with your friends, with the people you work with or just share space with is still being created. Messed up as it may get sometimes, we still keep getting more pieces of life that we can decide to put right where we want them. It isn't that hard. It's just one piece at a time, doing stuff that God has already shown us that's just waiting for the right vision of life to awaken it within us. It's God's way of turning us away from regrets and towards possibilities, of taking our worst experiences and showing us what we can do anyway.